Okay, this is day 5 of the hetero heterophobic attack that I'm being subjected to right now. Like I've been saying in the videos concerning this attack, uh, it's a heterophobic attack um, that basically I'm being harassed. There's been um, electronic targeting to a degree, but not the conventional kind. There's been spiritual targeting, and there's also been street theater and gang stalking as well. Basically, uh, it's hard for me to actually see the full force of their attack because of my defense is so good. So I don't know how someone who hasn't got a good defense will cope with these kind of attacks, because basically those of you who have had some form of mental health service, who have asked for help in the mental health service or got some kind of psychological help, you understand that uh, the components of your psyche, the id, the ego, and the superego, this is a way they kind of dissect your psychological state in order to determine whether you're balanced or not. So your id normally refers to your desires, sexual desires, physical desires, and all kinds of things. And your superego, that's normally to do with your morality, justice, that kind of thing. And your ego is there as a controller, also generates dopamine, trying to, whenever you decide to act to something, you either act to it spiritually or physically. If you look at my channel, I've got physical reactions when I do all those press ups, weightlifting, whatever. And I've got spiritual reactions. I talk about spiritual subjects, and I've got intellectual ones, which is to do with to my ego to an extent, where I do scientific theory. So I keep a balanced channel here, and whoever watches my channel, if you watch it long enough, you eventually be balanced. You can't just neglect one component. You got to have a physical defense, a spiritual defense, and an intellectual one. Yeah, so yesterday was mostly about the spiritual defense, because I had all the classic signs of a spiritual attack, where you have the attention grabbers, yeah, where you hear conversation and only certain words stick out, and if you compile these words over time, you can see that somebody is actually trying to send you a message, a negative one. So once I noticed that, intellectually deduced that, I started with my spiritual defense. So my spiritual defense is involves well, it's a spiritual defense. So the Almighty has blessed me with a mind that can, there's two types of tricksters, yeah. In some of the forbidden gospels of Jesus Christ, they say that he used to like being a trickster, used to be childish and so forth. But there is also, the devil is described in our Bible as somebody who's a trickster, but they're two different tricksters here. Yeah, there's benevolence and malevolence. Yeah, these are the two different type of tricksters. So my defense is more to do with benevolence, yeah. Tricksing, yeah. Where my skills, my little tricks, are to do with giving, um, giving, rather than malevolence, where you're just being a pest, you're just um, being like that. But however, to those who try to fool around with my mind, they might think I'm being malevolent, but I'm trying to give myself a good quality of life, yeah. But they might see it as being malevolence, yeah. So in my mind, I play the part of evil and I play the part of good. Yeah, so when someone attacks my mind, I become very, to them, malevolent. I become malevolent to them in order to be benevolent to me. So my defense involves distracting people as they're trying to attention grab me. Yeah. So when I start to see that there's my mind is you know, paying attention to certain trigger words, then I know that my attention is being grabbed. Yeah, so I defend myself by just being a trickster in my mind to disrupt those who are, trying to cause my consciousness to pay attention to certain trigger words. Because I don't know how to do it. Somebody must be sitting there, and whenever I start to hear something, they kind of like time whatever web, whatever electromagnetic signal they're throwing at me to grab my attention to certain things. So it appears to be that kind of electronic targeting that is very, very covert. So yesterday I did go through my defense, which is benevolent malevolence. And the attack stopped. So today I've just been sitting there on full defensive alert. I was anticipating another attack, yeah, but it hasn't quite materialized. But then again, I'm in a quiet environment. I don't know if it's gonna be like that today. The day is just starting. I do these blogs at the beginning of the day. So day 4 went yesterday, as I was describing it. It went well, because what happened on day 3 with that spiritual attack, and when I went through it, and they saw me on day 4, which is yesterday, they would have been shocked that I didn't have any the physical problems that they tried to induce in me. And what happened, I would see people I would sense that they're a bit shocked and unsure how I managed to survive that day. Yeah, it was a full-on spiritual attack where attention grabbing, synchronicities, everything was thrown in there. Yeah. So I'm still anticipating that, and I'm still keeping myself physically strong. Yeah. Because obviously, I don't know how homosexuals deal with this kind of attack. Like, let's say if there's another gay person who wants, to get you, and they start harassing you with the system. Well, if you're homosexual, you deal with it. I don't know. But me, I'm not a homosexual. So I'm somebody who does not want those advances. I wanted someone to come out and say, look, I want to do this. And then I'll tell them straight, I'm a straight guy. I'm not into that. And I'm not even playing. And I'm not swagging or anything like that. And so that I can explain it to you and you can move on. But if you're homosexual, then you handle it. I don't know how you do your things. But as a straight man, this is a form of harassment. Yeah. And it's targeting that is unwanted. I don't swing that way. Yeah. So I don't know. I got to thinking that it's something that even parents nowadays have to deal with, where you have a child who's trying to resist temptations, and the children shouldn't be having sex anyway, and you might have people who's pressuring them, harassing them politically within their peers, to turn them that way. So how do you defend that? Well, if it's a child, and they have become homosexual, you just make sure they don't spend any time alone with an adult male, because children are not supposed to be having sex. So if your child has taken to homosexuality and there's an adult trying to groom them, you just make sure they don't spend any time with any male adults. It's simple as that. Yeah. I don't care what a child takes to. If they remain normally heterosexual, because when I said normal, I mean the majority, if you look at the bell curve, will be heterosexual. If they stay normal, then you obviously make sure they don't spend time alone with the member of the sex with the orientation they have. So if they're a girl, you make sure they don't spend time alone with adult males. Yeah. if it's a girl that has shown signs that she's very, very uh horny, it happens. I told you I got my first erection when I was 4, so I know children get horny. If they've shown signs that whenever they see a male body, they become horny, you just make sure they don't spend time alone with males. If he's a little boy and he's showing signs that he's attracted to the male body, then you make sure he don't spend time alone with adult males. You just Some children might not go through that. Some children might not become horny or show signs that they are. But I've seen children very, very horny, and I'm like, I hope their parents know that, you as parents, you remember when you was a child, you remember that you was horny too. So don't act like that. Don't act like it doesn't happen in children. It does happen, but when you have a horny child, whether hetero or homo, I would think, I don't know how to advise homosexuals, but let's stick to hetero. When you have a horny child, just make sure they don't spend time with members of the opposite sex. It's simple as that. And if you're a parent of a child who's homosexual, you make sure they don't spend time alone with adults of the same sex as them. I would have thought it was simple, yeah, until they become old enough to have that kind of thing, yeah. So if you're a child, then I suppose your parents should be able to deal with this kind of targeting. But if you're an adult and you're attacked direct, then you have to consider your 3 options. It's either going to be a spiritual response, an intellectual response, or a physical one. And you have to be ready to apply all 3. Yeah? So you just have to look at the data that's out there, look at what type of attack you've got, and then decide what type of response you're going to have. Yeah? At the moment, because no one has been physically confrontational with me, I'm not going to have a physical response to the attack. There's an intellectual attack, yeah, but obviously intellectually I'm also sound. But this seems to be more of a spiritual attack where my attention is being grabbed to thought processes which I know through my history, my psychological history, that these thought processes induce mental illness. So my attention is being grabbed to trigger words which, if left unchecked, would lead to mental illness. So that's why I don't just spend time just talking all the time. I have to apply a spiritual force, yeah, to make that attention grabbing stop. So basically, it's like I have to rule my mind. That's it. You got to rule your mind. Simple.